Brad, we did it.
Woo! We really did it. To come back home and get through a couple of episodes, which were very kind of Blair Witchy, walking in the woodsy. It was fun. It was different. But I'm glad to be back in our coves doing the shows.
That's right. And tonight we're actually recording this live over on twitch.tv/CraigSkits because this is a kind of a unique show. We felt like this is something that it's going to be a combo platter, kind of our regular weekdays with Craig and Brad, and something I used to do on my on the channel. I do it every once in a while when it needs to be done. It's called Grown Ass Talks because grown ass time to talk. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I thought maybe we should put a little wrap on vacation talk before we get into the good stuff.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm glad we took a vacation before we kind of like left one world and went on vacation for like a day and a half. It wasn't even a long vacation. Then drove into a whole new world. But it was a good getaway. It was nice to be with family. And if you haven't ever been to Broken Bow, Oklahoma, it's a really charming little place to go visit. Check it out. Get yourself a cabin. There's some hotel motels nearby and just some fun little things to do to get away. It did not feel like 2020 or 2021. It felt like pre-COVID days.
Felt like pre-COVID. Felt like pre-internet. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it really did. It had a nice charm to it. Something that you can't get not very many places these days. So it was nice to do that.
It's a shame that in like 20 years is going to be ruined because there'll be a Walmart and a Target and all these things that just totally make that place as awesome as it is.
It's going to blow up. There's a lot of I've got a few friends looking for property out there. And I had another friend that was posting, I'm in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and they had their feet up looking over the woods and stuff. And we happen to know a friend who rents out a cabin out there, and she hooked us up. So it was nice to go out there and do that. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how much it blows up over the next 10 to 20 years. And then you're just like, oh, yeah, great.
I mentioned this on yesterday's podcast, which was oddly enough recorded today. Earlier today, which is this podcast is turning into a daily vlog.
We're hardworking boys, Craig.
Hey,
look, we got to get these peeps the show. This is called Weekdays with Craig and Brad. It's not called Sometimes.
No, it's weekdays, Monday through Friday. It's great. But we are recording live tonight, which is great. We have everybody pulled up in the chat over here. I see Seismic Harper and Rated MJ and Glove Save and Dandy and Dragon Boat Nick and then Lion King John. It's good to see you guys. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. If you are in the chat, make sure you guys say hi. Tonight's conversation is built around us, everybody. This is a grown-ass talk. It's the idea of getting together and talking about things. Just the difference between this grown-ass talk and every other grown-ass talk we've done is that as opposed to essentially just me and you talking, now it's me and Brad get to have the conversation with you. So it should be fun. So anyways, Broken Bow, Oklahoma, 9.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed it. So
yeah,
everyone really don't go there and screw it up. Don't screw it up.
Yeah. Take it as it is, and then just enjoy it, bask in it. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes it's good just to go out in the woods and light a fire in a proper place, not like in the woods, but in a fire pit. Not.
You know what one of the highlights for me was telling ghost stories to the kids around campfires. I pulled up some stories. Now, some of you might remember this book growing up. It's called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And I told the story of the Viper. And it's a funny, scary story that it ends up with a guy who he's calling this house and he says, "It's the Viper. I'll be there in 10 minutes." And he keeps calling back. And then the crux of the story is, "I'm the Viper." He ends up knocking on the door and he goes, "I am the Viper. I'm here to wash your windows." And the kids got a kick out of it. And Mom was like, "I remember this story." And Mom remembered it growing up. And
right.
Some of you might remember that story, and that was one for me too. I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this story. Let's read this story. It's funny." So it's cool to pass that tradition on.
You also did the Bloody Fingers story, and the bloody
Yeah.
finger story. Mackenzie said she had trouble sleeping after the bloody
Oh,
finger story. So thanks
yeah.
for that.
It's probably because I said it like this. Bloody fingers.
That's right.
Bloody fingers. Yeah, good stuff.
But I think it's important. It's important for people to for kids to hear those things and experience to have those ghost stories, do
Yeah, it's
s'mores
just
and
a
all that
little
stuff.
no, it's another avenue for their imagination to go down that
Right.
they're not gonna get too often. If you don't do it too scary, it'll scare them just enough to be like, "Ooh," and it keep them up a little bit later, but we all go through that.
Nice,
I
nice.
remember I remember seeing the movie Little Monsters with Fred Savage at a birthday party one night, and I had trouble sleeping after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. As people continue to roll in, I like to say hi to Jess and Samurai Wesley and Katie. Good evening to you guys. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Always a pleasure to have you. And Punkfish is here. So sending all the love and positive vibes to everyone tonight. Oh man, we're gonna get into that here in
Yeah.
just a little bit, man. Like I said, tonight we're gonna be talking about. We don't know how long we're gonna go. We could go 20 minutes. We could go an hour. We could go 30 minutes. Who knows? But we wanted to kind of dig into all the stuff that's going on right now on January 6th, 2021.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we don't the thing is, like, our podcast, we try to keep it light. We know when we bring you the news is just conversation. It's just for fun. We really try to keep out of topics. But when we came back today, we're like, we have to talk about what's happened today. Like,
and we should.
Yeah, and we should.
I think of it like this, right? There's a station here in town that I really enjoy. It's called The Ticket, right? And it's a sports talk radio station. I've always enjoyed it. And they during 9/11, they don't do a whole lot of big news or whatever, but whenever something big happens, they talk about it, right? And I remember during 9/11, they just stayed on the air and they just talked about it, and they talked about what they were feeling and how they were feeling, and they were on the air for 7 years prior to that, and they said that is when The Ticket became The Ticket, was when they were just able to talk about that and talk about their feelings with their co-hosts and their audience, and talk about their fears and everything that's going on, and that always resonated with me, as far as people don't tune in to hear us talk about the Florida guy stories. I mean, those are great, but hopefully they want to hear about our stories and our vacations and stuff. I know.
Of course they do. These are hard-hitting stories that people need to know about. Hey, side note on The Ticket here in Dallas. Did you know that The Ticket was the first time I ever performed on the radio?
Really? What show?
It was what's that guy? What was that guy's name?
Big Dick.
Big Dick. That was his name. And I drove through icy roads in the snow to get there. The other guy that was supposed to be on the show with me that night, the other guest, he canceled because of the weather. And I was like, I'm getting to the radio. And I got in the car with my buddy. He came with me. I played 2 songs on the radio that night. And I think I was 19 at the time, promoting 5 Times August. And I felt like I had just accomplished something major. But
You made it.
I made it. Good memories. But I just remember driving so slow to get there. I was like, I'm gonna accomplish my dreams, and I was cold, freezing in the car and stuff.
Nice.
Good memories.
Hey, we don't have any alerts on anything like that tonight, but if you guys do directly donate, if you'd like to use any bits, we'll obviously read those off. Like Shane, who donated $5, says Brad finally played some new games or still stuck with Cool Spot?
We had a Wii in our house, and I had Beatles Rock Band for a good while, and I got pretty good at that until I realized I should be practicing my own actual guitar more than I'm playing Beatles Rock Band. So we did that. We got Super Mario All-Stars, and I like to keep it to the simpler games, Mario kind of games. I'm not going to really, Craig knows this for sure. And some of you might've seen it whenever I've hopped on to the live streams and gamed with Craig, but I'm just horrendous at all of the new games. I'm just bad. I'm not good. I'm an old man with a joystick there's all these buttons. I'm not good. I admit it. But you give me a little controller with maybe, 2 buttons, 4 buttons at most on the right side. I'll get through it. I'll figure it out. It's little side scrollers.
Yeah, it's
That's
fun.
my era. That's my jams.
Well, we have Iceman joining us. Mushi has joined us, which is exciting. Nick and Punkfish. Guys, thank you very much. Wolf Fox has joined us as well. I got the chat pulled up over here. Mark Samaro, great to see you as well. Glad to see everybody popping in tonight. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Like I said, this is kind of one of those elephant in the room things. We feel like it's important for us to talk about. Usually my stance is, and my stance still is very much so. I don't care how you vote. I don't care how your feelings on things. Just don't tell me about them. And I'm not going to tell you about mine. I think it's a pretty easy stance. And some people say that as no politics. That's not no politics. If you actually hear what I'm saying instead of listening to what you want to hear, that's not no politics. It's simply, I just don't want to hear about your politics, and that's pretty much.
You don't want it. You don't want it crammed in your face, and then they get angry at you. Like a civil conversation's one thing, and then you can each go, okay, agree to disagree, and then be friends still. Like I've got so many friends I disagree with, and we maybe, pick at each other in comments on Facebook and stuff, but we're still buddies, and that's what I think we're kind of losing. And that reminds me that Craig is no longer on Twitter, and it made me think, how badly did you want to hop on Twitter today with all the events? You didn't? It's not even in your brain anymore?
I had no interest in hopping on Twitter. It was that's the last thing I wanted.
Yeah, I didn't know if you felt a need to like hop quickly on and be like, share your opinion.
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, not at all. Why would I want to do that? That's the worst thing in the world. No, absolutely not.
Okay. The high and mighty lord of un-Twitter world.
No, it is ridiculous.
Kidding.
Hey, Relaxing Sam, thank you. So it's good to see you. Donated $20.21. Says can't stay because it's bedtime. But Happy New Year's. Loving the podcast and the YouTube videos. Hey, thank you so much, Relaxing Sam. Greatly appreciate that. No notifications tonight because this will be going up on YouTube tomorrow. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. And Captain Agent also resub tier 3 for 5 months. Thank you so much, Captain Agent, with a tier 3 sub. That's outstanding, Captain Agent. Brad, I believe the relationship you have with your friends is called being an adult, which is something that is hard to do for a lot of people these days.
It's called friendship is the word. Like, it's like, you're not going to agree. And it happens in marriage too. Like, you're not going to agree on everything, but you still love each other and care about each other. And you do your best to show that, no matter how, how thick-headed you both might be at times.
Right. And I think that's the thing is, right, everybody has these things that they believe in. Everybody has things that they believe in. And if you didn't, you're not a person. Otherwise, you're just floating around, right? People have things that they believe in. But it's also good to hear all sides. It's good to hear other sides of things, and that's something that, that's going to be a big part of what I talk about tonight. It just is social media as a whole. And I legitimately feel so lucky that I was not on Twitter today, because I just like people like, I was talking to our sister today, and I was talking to her and I was talking about, everything. And she goes, you're not on Twitter anymore. I said, no. And she goes, well, how do you get the news? And it's like, well, how do you get the news? Who do you truly trust to give you your news this now? Do you trust Fox? Do you trust CNN, MSNBC? Do you trust OAN? Do you trust any newslet network? Do you trust them? I don't. I don't trust any of them.
Right.
I don't trust any of them. I certainly don't trust Twitter. I certainly don't trust Facebook. So who do you legitimately trust?
Well, I think that's where a lot of the tension rises from right now, is that you've got so many people completely like just they're just attached to just one thing, right? And there's nothing outside of it. Now, my approach to just living in my whole life has been like, I'm a walking. What's over here? What are you saying? Oh, I hear that. That's great. I'm going to consider what you're saying. I'm a walking. What are you saying over here? That's been like my Facebook feed, right? Like, I come from we come from a conservative upbringing, but we got so many friends in the industry. I come from the music industry, which is a very liberal industry. So, I have friends over here, I have friends over here, and like I've always found myself like kind of just sitting right here, just going, all right, and I put it together. And that's how I approach the news and the media, and like I go, what are they saying? What are they saying? Let me put it together into an amalgamation of what I feel like, and we all kind of have to do that at this point. I think is
Right.
what do I think is true based on all of these different things.
Right. So it's funny. I see there's a lot of people in the chat, which is great. Like I said, tonight, if you guys just popping in, we're gonna be talking about everything that went on today in the Capitol. And we're gonna be talking about just give you our thoughts on it. Like I said, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna try to push anything on you. You don't push anything on me. This is just simply built around being a conversation, and that's the most important.
Therapy.
Yeah, and I mean it can be, right? And I'm not saying that I know all the answers. I'm not saying that you know all the answers. I'm just saying let's talk, and more importantly, listen to each other. Listen to what everybody has to say here about everything that's going on, because I think that's the biggest thing that's missing right now in the world is listening. Everybody has taken stances. Everyone has taken a side. And you know what? If you're not on that side, you can get the fuck out, And that's the issue. That's the problem. That's why I left Game Attack. That's why people are still upset. That's why people cheered when I got off Twitter, because I didn't think like them. And the group think that goes on Twitter of, well, I have my bubble and I'm going to be in this bubble, and anybody who doesn't think like me can get outside the bubble. It's the most shallow-minded, pathetic way of thinking you can possibly think.
Right.
And if anybody has anything to say about that, that is what I think of you.
Yeah.
So
I think it's time in America for us all to hold hands in a circle. We all stand up and we each go around one by one, every single one of us. We go, my name's Brad Skistimus and I'm an American on social media, or whatever it is. Like tell us your problem,
right.
And where you're from. And let's all help each other out and figure out ways to get through this.
It's funny because I guess let's just first start with kind of a recap. I know most people know what's going on, and admittedly, like I said, I don't know everything that went on today. I wasn't following it. Like I didn't have my head in my phone the entire day. I was kind of living my life and driving back from Broken Bow, right? So for me, I'm just so. You followed it more than me. So catch me and catch all the legends up on.
Oh, geez. I don't even. So we were driving home from our trip, and the news had escalated to, whoa, they breached the Capitol. And we were like, what? And so we had very, very bad internet connection driving home. So we tuned into AM radio. And
when you say it started with just like a protest.
Well,
right?
we all knew that there was going to be a rally today. I think everybody knew that was going to happen. I think everybody also knew, like, oh, what's going to happen?
Sure.
With so many people there. So, we listened to Trump speak, which was really weird because it was through spotty AM radio. So it sounded very historical. It sounded like we were tuning in during wartime and the president was speaking through like this tiny, like bunker radio. And we listened to him speak and we're like, all right, so now what? Like, and they were like, well, we're going to march down towards the Capitol. And then I think Mom was checking Twitter or something, and it said, "Oh, they breached the Capitol," and we were like, "What?" And so we didn't really have a visual of what was going on, and I was like, "Okay." And that's really all we knew until we got home. We turned on the TV, and we're like, "Oh, like they really actually like went on through the gates and went inside, and they're in there." And so at first glance, I was kind of like, all right, well, we've seen a lot of this in the last year. We've seen a lot of just, breaking in down to, creating our own boundaries. We're going into boundaries, all sorts of cities over the last year. So yeah, it was that's where we ended up. And then we came home and sort of just been watching little clips here and there. And some, I'm reading my news feed, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed to be an American," and things like that. Now, I'll say this: I'm not embarrassed to be an American. I'm embarrassed for the people that are making bad decisions here as Americans. And I've always looked at America as we're a young country. We're prepubescent. We haven't figured ourselves out. So there's these weird moments in history where we're still like our voices scratching, and we're awkward and weird and real nasty at times too. And I think that this is one of those moments where we're trying to figure ourselves out still. So,
it's funny because I think when you think of like America, everyone goes, "It's the greatest country in the world. It's the greatest country in the world. Where else can an immigrant come and become a millionaire, right? Or whatever." There's always this example of like the American dream, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those things where when you continue to tell yourself something, you're gonna start to believe it, right? America's the greatest country in the world. That is what we've been taught our entire life. And you know what? I believe it. I genuinely believe it, right? There's very few places on earth that allow you the opportunities that you can in America, right? Through the opportunity of capitalism and the opportunity to be your own boss if you want to be your own boss, or go work for somebody else and do your own thing, right? But I saw today as an amalgamation, as a period on what has happened, not just in the last year with COVID, with civil unrest, but really the last 4 years, right? With Trump and his presidency, and the supporters of Trump, and how they feel that their man has been given the shaft and every chance they get, right? And this is just kind of the burning point of it, right? This is the point where it kind of hits the fan a little bit. And I think that's what today was, right? I think you've had, specifically over the last year, you've had people being told what they can't do. You can't open your business. You can't go outside. You have to wear a mask. You have to do this. If you do this, you're going to kill your grandparents, right? You have all these people who have been told what they can't do for the past year after having freedom their entire life, right? And if you don't do it, you're a bad person, and you get blamed, and you're going to kill somebody if you don't wear a mask, right? Then you see what happened with everything in Kenosha, in Missouri, right? In Seattle, Portland, all these different areas where they see buildings being burned down. They see businesses being shredded. They see all these different things that they're like, well, nobody's doing anything about it. Like Chaz went on for weeks and nobody said anything to them. Right. You see protests, riots, whatever you want to call them. Right. You see destruction. And I think that what you saw today, my personal stance, the way I personally feel, and like I said, I don't care how you guys feel. I don't care. I don't. I don't want you to tell me. I don't want you to push. I'm just saying this, right?
Just let it out.
My personal thought is what you saw today, an attack on the Capitol, is terrorism. It's domestic terrorism. With that said, I think what you saw in Portland, in Kenosha, in all those places where cities are being burned, that is terrorism. You can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose what is and what isn't, right? For what cause or this cause. You can't. Because at the end of the day, things are burning, just or unjust. I think today was the result of people seeing things happen over the past year, and people being like, well, why the hell not? Why the hell not?
Well, as you're saying that, go ahead and share this screen. This came up in my feed, and this was the only picture I really had pulled up to share tonight. This picture is DC. This is from May 2020, and these are it's on fire. We've already been here, and there was a lot more justification for this back then. So to speak to your point, I guess the question we're asking is, which one's wrong, right? Like, which one is more wrong, or which one's more right? Which one's more justified, right? So I don't know. I saw this and I was like, well, okay. People lost their businesses last year, and it was very it was very justified, right? It's like buildings and streets were on fire. And I had lots of conversations with my friends. And I had a friend on my newsfeed in Facebook, and he had the Antifa logo as his profile logo. So I was like, I gotta talk to him, because I was like, what do you think of this whole Antifa thing? What's your stance on it? I don't know anybody who's involved in it. Are you involved in it and stuff? And so he gave me a very laid out, solid opinion of why he believes in it, right? And I said, well, what's with all this destruction that's going on? And he goes, well, those are other people. And I was like, all right, well, they've got your badge going while they're doing it. And it's like, yeah, there's people infiltrating that are doing these bad things. And so I say this all just to say this: there were a lot of people out there today. And I think that the people that support Trump, they know their kind. And I'll say this much: when a story like this has happened, and there's been a billion of them over the last year, I try to look for people who are there. I try to chat with ground zero people, or that's the news that I look for, because it doesn't lie, right? People there with their iPhones. I look for those clips, because the news can take something, they can cut it up and change it however they want.
We both know, and I think we've seen more than anything, right? You see Instagram lives, you see Twitter lives, right? Look at how awesome my life is, right? In reality,
Yeah.
you get a picture of a sweet sunset and a girl in a bikini in the background, and everyone thinks you're rich, right? In reality, you're a broke ass bitch, right? And that's just the reality of it, right?
The YouTube commercials, where the guy's like, hey, I'm a millionaire. Why don't you sign up for my course? I'll teach you how to rent a house and pretend you're owning it all.
It's selective, right? And the ability to take snippets of things and fit. It's very much goes back to this social media life of being able to fit things in 280 characters or less, being able to fit things in tiny segments, and that's dangerous as shit.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say, though, was that I look for people, right? Now, my wife Kelly is friends with lots and lots of people, and she works for our city here. She's associated with many different people across the board. She knew 4 people that were there today, and every single one of them. Now, I'm just telling you what her experiences through other people.
Sure.
Every single one of them, as soon as this stuff started to happen, their report back was, this is not our people. These are not Trump supporters. These are not patriots. Those people know their kind. They know their vibe, right? Like, if I walk into a room of music industry people, we know each other. We know our vibes. If I start talking to somebody who's not a musician, I know it, right? If you go into talk to me about games, I'm not a gamer, right? You just vibe off of it. So they picked up on it, and that's just all I'm going to kind of say about that. But like, they were like instantaneous, like, we're getting out of here. These are not our people. So that's just information I pulled tonight. And
where were they?
They were there at the rally. And then they
Like
went back
at
to
the
their
Capitol,
hotel.
or like, because I don't even know where was the rally.
Yeah, it was in DC. It was down the road, down the street from the Capitol building. They gathered together, I guess, across several blocks. There's a million people there. Trump gave a speech, said we're going to walk down the street to the Capitol building. Now, I don't know what the point of that was. I don't know what the idea of. I don't even know what you're going to, go down there, stop at the gates, chant what you want to chant, and I guess that was the point. And then it
Right.
got escalated, right? And
Right.
then that's where you go, what are you doing? What are you going to do when you go in there? Right?
Right.
So,
Well, it's you're right. You're right. Like, what are you going to do? And it's funny because I was watching a live stream on YouTube of this guy who he was filming like these people. So the I guess the police inside had their shields up, right? And they're protecting the doorway. And they're getting just beaten the hell out of that. These shields are getting beat up by a couple of guys with baseball bats and batons, right? And it's like two guys in the front, right? And they're just beating the hell out of these things. And they can't advance. They're stuck at a doorway. They're at an impasse, right? And there's people, and there's people, flicking off the cops or whatever that are not letting them in. Of course, they're pissed. It's emotional or whatever. And then it's like, then they throw out tear gas and everyone disperses because they can't see, right? And that's, pardon the pun, that's the trump card with the whole thing, is like there are chemicals and weaponry that just this generic group of people that are just like, this angry mob can't compete with, and it dispersed and people left, right? And that is what it is, right? There will always be, when it comes to like an angry mob versus an organized group of police, the police 99 out of 100 times will win because they're organized, they have an attack plan, and they're trained for this. Whereas a mob is just, pitchforks and knives and fire, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we saw today, is people just being pissed, right? I'm pissed about this. I'm mad. I'm mad. And like I said, I feel that today was a culmination of everything that has happened over the last 4 years, specifically the last year, right? Of various things that have happened. So it's funny. I see several people in the chat. I saw one in particular. It looks like Rated MJ says we're both wrong. It says, as an African American, I feel that there's always been suppressor of a group of people, and it's sad because it leads to some type of mob. George Orwell said, "You put down oppressor, a mob will rise." But then it becomes the question of who will put down the mob, right? Yeah, I understand, and we've seen, like, that's the thing. We've seen mobs all year, right? You've seen mobs of white folks, black folks, every kind of folks in between, right? There have been mobs of them throughout in the last year, and it really is just a powder keg. It's just a powder keg of everything that's gone on with, I personally feel that it starts with COVID. I really do feel that being told you can't do something, you're not allowed to do this, you can't open your business, or you can't go out, and do these things. You can't see your family, for the better good of everybody. Like, being told you can't do something is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And that weighs heavily on a lot of people, and that's tough. So,
yeah. What I want to kind of touch on is media.
Sure.
Because you and I both have had our hands in media for a long time, and working in the entertainment industry. Like, I've done so many interviews. I've seen how things are made. We've touched on like how I've done so many different things. One thing we haven't discussed is that Kelly and I did an episode of, what was it called? My first sale for HGTV, when we tried to sell our home. And that was firsthand experience on how a reality show is put together, which is nothing of reality.
So this is a show. This is a show called
This was a TV show on HGTV called My First Sale for first-time home sellers trying to sell their home. Now we
You were on
listed our,
this?
I was on this. You do not remember this? This is what
No.
led us into the RV life for that year. You don't remember that?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking you
So
up. Hold on.
it might not be up there. This was like 10 years ago, Craig.
Okay.
I can't believe you don't even know this.
No.
We had a big party and everything. You were drunk. I don't know. So anyway, so we spent the entire summer filming HGTV episode My First Sale. They'd cut, and this is all supposed to, like, we spent the whole summer filming one 30-minute episode, and you watch these things. Did you find it? Selling for a House on Wheels. That's right. Brad and Kelly want to hit the road in an RV so they can tour the country promoting Brad's music. That's right. So it's just firsthand experience, right? Of being in the eye of the storm where something's supposed to be projected as real or true, and looking around and then being like, hey, we need you to say this line one more time. Hey, we need you to say this because it helps tell the story a little bit better. This sort of amalgamated, truncated version of your life right now, right?
Right.
That is what HGTV needs to create in order to sell the program, to advertisers and viewers, right? It's not mine and Kelly's story. It's HGTV's version of that.
Right.
And so when I watch TV, I'm always thinking that now, especially with reality shows. Like during our trip, we were watching a lot of Man versus Food. I'm like, this isn't all just one sit,
Right.
it might have been, but it was an all-day shoot. All the people that come up and give them these zingers and one-liners, those people were asked to do that, right?
Of course.
And so there's that example. There's also the interview example where I've done interviews one-on-one over the phone. I've 45-minute interviews. What's my backstory? How'd you get to where you are in music, and all this stuff, and it's coming straight from my mouth. Here's my story. I'm telling it to you. Okay. I look forward to reading it in the magazine or the newspaper. Newspaper comes out. I didn't say that. Where did they get that from? And then it's just twisted, or it's just completely off, and that's happened time and time again. And that's on a small scale. So from my own experience, these little twists in how, anytime it's up to somebody else telling a story, and whether or not you want to accept it or not, news and the news that's happening in the world is a story. No matter any way you want to look at it, it's telling a story. And so if they can enhance that story in any way to keep your eyes on the TV, it's going to be enhanced. It might still be true, but it might be tweaked. It doesn't mean it's false. It doesn't mean it's fake news, but it's just got a little bit of salt on it to give it some extra flavoring or something,
Sure. Well, and that goes back to the idea of, like, how do we get the news? I don't know. I don't have a solution for that anymore. I sure as hell am not going to get the news on TV. I'm sure as hell not going to get the news from Twitter, because people are paid in Twitter clout now. They want more followers or
Right.
Facebook likes or whatever, and that's the crazy thing about this whole thing. Mike Fury says funny how the media said there were 50,000 people there. Meanwhile, the police said there were close to 1 million people. This, in a nutshell, is basically where we're at with society. There's such a gap in perception, and it's been that way for a good 20 years now. Something such as crowd size shouldn't be so trivial.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. That is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you look at the media hatred towards Donald Trump, for example. His crowd size is always smaller, right? On if you watch CNN, if you watch MSNBC, his crowd size is always smaller than what Fox News or Trump will say. So which one is it? Which one do you want to believe? Which one makes you feel better about your own beliefs? That's how we're sort of digesting the news, right? We're going, Well, you have to sort of just trust your eyes. That's what I was telling you. You have to sort of go down to uh, brass tacks and find the raw information, right? So whatever they're telling you on the news about today and what happened, get online. We have this incredible tool. Look for video of people that were there. Start making up your own mind. Don't wait for somebody to tell you. Just go look. It's all out there. There were at least 50,000 people there today, right?
Right. And you know what? They all had their phone up. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's my point. There were at least 50,000 to 1,000,000 iPhones there today. So I'm sure there's information that you can look at. So if you're confused or you're wondering what happened, like, we have an incredible opportunity to figure out the story ourselves. So
You know what's hilarious about that, and well, that's not even hilarious. What's sad about that is I see in the chat, it says rated MJ. Rated MJ just goes, "I want the damn truth." Here's the
mhm,
thing about that: even if you're there, rated MJ, you don't know the truth because there's your story, there's the other story, and then there's something in the middle. There's always three sides to every story,
mhm.
always, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and there's always,
yeah,
because you will have your slanted reality of what you saw, right? But you don't know why that happened, right? Yeah, this guy came up and punched me for no reason. It's like,
yeah.
okay, why did he go up and punch you? Did you leave out the fact? I'm not saying you rated him, Jay. I'm just saying, just in general, this guy came up and punched me for no reason. It's like, but 15 seconds prior, you were flipping him off or something. Well, you didn't leave that part out. You know what I mean? Like, there's always multiple sides to the story, and it's always somewhere in the middle, right? And I see Jeremiah talking about how, the number one rule of media is consider the source, right? But even then, I can't trust anybody, Jeremiah. I can't trust any
Yeah.
outlet right now. You know,
That's the hard thing. I mean, I've had journalist friends that write me, and they're like, "Look, you got to check this out, and you got to follow over here. Only look at these news outlets." And you're like, "Yeah, I know, I get, but like at the same time, like, things are just real crazy. I kind of feel like I gotta really just do my own, trust my gut, I guess."
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I've had so many fascinating talks over this last year with so many different followers from all different walks. And you come to conclude, look, we're all just doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we have, right? We're all just trying to get through it. And
Right.
nobody thinks they're doing anything bad. And so when you have a conversation, which is what's important, like today, Kelly shared a link on her Facebook, and somebody had posted, "I can't find anything on this to back this up," right? This claim that she had shared through an article. So do you know what Kelly did? She called the hospital that had made this claim. It was
Mhm.
a claim about recent COVID stuff, to confirm this article. She called the hospital, and then she wrote her friend back and said, "Hey, I called the place. You can call them here to confirm if you would like, but I confirmed it with them." You know, it took 2 seconds. Like, we have everything we need right here, and we don't use it for the right the right thing.
Right. Right.
It's like you were talking about three sides to every story, and it made me think about little trips on our vacation where the kids would get in an argument. There's three sides. There's uh, he he picked on me or said something bad or whatever, you
Mhm.
know. No, I didn't. This is what really happened. The third side is a parent's story. Let me tell you what really happened, right?
Mhm. Right.
And so, which one is true, right?
Right. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. 100% right. And it's funny. Jeremiah says, allsides.com. Great source for that, shows articles and the bias of the site. Right. But one thing that allsides.com can't factor in is poor journalism. Right. You see poor journalism all the time,
Mhm.
and it just comes down to laziness, right? And I'm just now looking at this for the first time, Jeremiah, and I see what you're saying is that they have a left side. I'll show it to you real quick. They have news from the left, news from the right, and news from the right, and down the center, right? And it's funny because depending on who you speak to, some people wouldn't feel that USA Today is center. They'd say they're left or they're right, or and that's the thing about this. It just kind of comes down to what side of the fence you're on.
That's fascinating to me. Like that's a useful tool, but I'm also like, well, what's the point of it? In a way, I understand the point of it, but also like if you're going there to figure out the news, or you're just going like, well, I like to read the news on the left, so I'm going to choose that one, or
Right.
whatever. I guess the idea is to find the most balance if that's what you're looking for, which is a helpful thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's just everybody's got their own tools, and that's good to share. I appreciate that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just fascinating to watch as I scroll down. Once again, I'm sorry, it doesn't look like I'm looking at you, but one of the things that I've been fascinated by as we continue on the conversation about everything that's going on today, and like I said, just to kind of recap, there's a big march today. It was a big pro-Trump march down in the Capitol. The Million MAGA March was what it was being coined as. It escalated to the point to where people approached the Capitol. They eventually breached the Capitol. And they were pushed back. One person was apparently shot and killed inside the Capitol. They're saying it was like a 16-year-old girl. Who they are, it's just the media. I guess it has not been confirmed yet.
I don't think it was a 16-year-old girl, because I looked into that story.
Right, exactly, right.
And again, immediately, like, there's what you heard, and what I have looked up was that she was a owner of a business, I believe. So she couldn't have been 16. I don't know much more than that, but
I don't know.
There we go. Immediately, 2 seconds in, like into
right,
a story.
exactly.
And we obviously that's a terrible happening that has happened. Yeah. But also, again, I go that people died last year. People got shot last year. Like,
yeah, people got shot in various other protests.
Yeah.
Throughout the country. Let's see. Here you go. Let's see. Let's just go to allsides.com and see what we have here about this person getting shot, because I have right here on Huey Wyatt says Ardantes she wasn't 16, she was an Air Force vet with 14 years of service, right?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah. So it went from she's 16 to now she's an Air Force vet, right? Like, these are just who knows, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see if we can find anything about this. But either way, like,
yeah. So the thing that's fascinating is which life was worth more, right? None was worth more, obviously, but today we lost a life. I think 2 people were shot and 1 person has lost a life. Then you have all the other people that have passed away last year in the middle of situations like this that got shot, right? And so you see this shift in the news, right? Well, this person got shot. Let's focus on that and create a story, or enhance that story, right? Like I was talking about. Whereas this person that got shot back then, they only got it this much attention and then it went away, right? And so you see this weird balance in like life, and that just it's frustrating and sad to see, because they're both life, right?
Right.
It's a terrible thing.
Well, Home Run King, we haven't seen in a while. So, hey guys, haven't checked in a while. A crazy event happened today. It's a sad day. Can I show this? Look at that. Oh, look at that. That's pretty awesome.
Oh.
It's a sad day when people are attached to a brand so much that they can feel brainwashed into raiding into the building with no plan or anything that would help their own life. Right. So the crazy thing about that is, once again, you can go back to May. You can go back to, whenever the other riots and protests were happening. You could say literally, you could take that snippet and bring it, and we could have this exact same conversation back in May in Kenosha, in Portland, in anywhere where there was civil unrest throughout the last year. You could say literally the exact same thing,
right.
and it would hold true, the exact same statement. So pretty fascinating. So yeah, it's crazy.
JT and Mike MKE. I don't know if that's supposed to be Mike or not. He's responding to Home Run King saying sports team style tribalism.
Right.
Now, we were talking about that a little bit on our trip because you were wondering. We were talking about just that very thing, like what's happened in politics is that, right? It doesn't even matter
You're red,
what the other
it's red
person
versus blue.
does.
It's red versus blue. It doesn't matter.
It's
Yeah.
straight up, and it's dedication. It becomes. I just lost the word that I was trying to think of, but that's exactly kind of what it's become.
Sure. Well, we have a second. I want to thank everybody for popping in and all the new followers. Thank you guys very much for hitting the follow button. Appreciate that. Huey Wyatt actually subbing with tier 1. Huey, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Busted Wiener resub Prime for 2 months. And Shane O'Mac resub tier 1 for 5 months as well. Thank you guys very much for popping in and your support. Really appreciate that. And all you guys who hit the follow button, greatly appreciate the growth for sure. As Artie also resub tier 1 for 9 months. Artie, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's really bizarre. Like, it's bizarre. And you said you saw people saying the phrase, "I'm embarrassed to be an American today," right? Mm-hmm. And how did you said you're embarrassed for what?
Oh, I just said I'm not embarrassed to be an American. I said I'm embarrassed for the Americans that have made terrible decisions. That really people who take action without even thinking, right? Or people that find allegiance with something and then they just stick with it, whether no matter whether it's right or wrong. Everybody can disagree or agree on what's right and what's wrong at this point. I think we can all agree that some people see right and others just see wrong. It's just two sides of the,
right.
The same thing right now. People are just going, no, it's right. No, it's wrong. But yeah, I kind of like, I'm not going to be embarrassed as an American because look, I look at it like this. You're going to have people in your family, right? We're all here. We're all, if you're an American, we're all Americans, right? No matter where you live, that's the place you grew up in. It's part of who you are. It just is. If you've got somebody in your family that's, going down to the smaller bits, when my boys grow up and they're in their teens and they're awkward and rude and making mistakes, terrible mistakes, as we all do, or even a cousin in the family, you're going to be more embarrassed for them than being like, I'm embarrassed they're my son. You would never really say that, right?
Right.
So I'm not embarrassed to be in this, to be an American. I'm embarrassed for God. Like, why would they do that? What are they thinking? Why, Jimmy, why did you break the window and run into the Capitol building today? What were you thinking? Right. What were you going to do when you got there? Why were you hanging from the balcony?
Right.
Aren't you embarrassed?
Right. And I think my thing is that it's just, I'm not embarrassed to be an American. I just find this whole thing embarrassing.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah. The situation is like, oh, you're like, ooh. Look,
I want to. Yeah. I want to open this up real quick. This is a really interesting comment here from Ed Ulrich, and I want to read this. Some unpopular opinion. I'm glad the politicians were scared. Let them feel how Americans felt the last 10 months. Let me say this. I was watching as Congress reopened tonight, right? And for those of you watching on YouTube, this is obviously we're recording this live on twitch.tv/Craig Skitz. We can have open conversation with everybody. And they were all taught, and as Congress was opening up, they went through the different folks stating what happened. It was there was a guy who compared it to Pearl Harbor. He talked about, and I can't fathom that. I legitimately can't fathom that the correlation there, because one was a sneak attack where literally hundreds of servicemen and women died, right, on a sneak attack, and the other one they just got they got rushed away, and yeah, it was like scary for them. But like I just can't even fathom, right, the idea
Yeah.
of comparing the two. But
Mhm.
it was interesting to hear how all the vast majority of them talked about, the brave men and women that protect them, right? And they were scared. They were scared. Well, but they're not going to let these people beat them, and they're going to do their job and certify the vote.
Mhm.
But it's interesting to hear them say that they were scared. And I got to
Mhm.
be honest, I'm okay with that comment, you'd
Yeah,
Ulrich, because I think
I
there's
would
a lot
agree
of
with
people.
that too. I think a lot of people would, especially after the whole last stimulus talk in the whole last year, and everybody going like, "Well, look, I got to survive too," you
Yeah,
know, because
I
they've had a job the last 10 months. They kept
right.
rolling, didn't they? So,
And you hear that quite a bit. The fastest way to end in the pandemic and end things shutting down is for the politicians to not get paid, right? For
yeah,
them not to make any money. You
yeah,
cut their salary, and all of a sudden, oh shit,
yeah,
we got to find a way to
yeah.
make it work. So,
Well, see, that's the fascinating thing is like, for how many years have we all just had this talk? It's portrayed in movies all the time. I was watching Superman 3, and you watch any Superman or Spider-Man where there's news editors around and stuff, and the news is always portrayed as like sensationalism, and politicians are always portrayed as liars and shady and fake people, right? And it's sort of accepted in our culture. And then all of a sudden, like this last year, it's really weird because the conversation sort of switched to like, no, I don't think, like, a lot of people really think like, no, that's not that can't be really true, right? But we, like, for years it was just sort of like, that's just what it is. Like, most politicians, they're kind of in it for themselves at the end of the day, and most newspapers are just trying to sell a newspaper at the end of the day.
right.
And so it's fascinating to see the disagreement of like, well, we need just trust the news and trust our politicians. Okay, well, I guess so. Haven't you seen Superman 3?
Right. So let's just kind of take a glance here real fast. I I, uh, I always like to take a look at like let's see. Here we go. These are the political. You talk about how politicians they're in it for themselves,
Hmm.
right? And I saw in the chat. I want to make sure I get this up here real quick. There was a comment about how um, politicians they're so oh, here it is right here. Driver Joel says the most politicians are so out of touch from the people they represent. Here is a great case study of this. Here is the net worth. This is the highest net worths of the people as of 2018 that they represented. Okay,
Hmm.
your Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, is worth 114 million dollars. Right.
Oh.
This is the top. This is just the top 35. Top 35 people. So there's 100 people. Is that
Hmm.
correct? There's two per state. So this guy, the Republican of Ohio, is worth $8.6 million. So there are 33 people between the Senate, House of Representatives that have net worths of over $10 million,
Hmm.
right? So how does that happen? How does that
Hmm.
happen? Let me just take a quick glance here. Salary of Nancy Pelosi, right? Nancy Pelosi.
Hmm.
I'm just curious because I mean that's some outstanding. Oh, okay, here we go. This is based off of money.com. Nancy Pelosi makes a very nice $223,000 a year. I mean, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So that's really good.
Nice,
Now,
nice living there.
how does that get to this?
Right.
You know, you're right. How does that happen? They're not in it for you. If you thought they're in it for you, you're wrong. They're in it for themselves. They're in it for their family. They're in it for generational wealth.
Hmm.
That's how it's always been. And
Hmm.
that's what's broken. That is what's broken for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to see, and I think that that's the crux of just, where we're at as a frustrated country, going just half and half. It's two distinct halves. So
Well, so Jetpack says in the chat, he says they're all rich. He says they're all rich from rich families and go to Ivy League schools. All of
mhm.
them, every
Yeah,
single one of them.
yeah.
Really? You know, like every single one of them is goes. You know, everyone that's worth $10 million is worth went to an Ivy League school. Like every single one of them. If that's the case, I mean, hell, that's good for them. But every single one of them,
Very smart people.
and there's nothing back. There's nothing going on in smoky room. You know, the old smoky meeting halls and backhanded. You know,
Right.
so this is all legit. All the money they made.
That as we learned from Aunt Becky of Full House, that is not the case, Craig.
Right. Driver Joel has resub Prime for 4 months, and Zach Jacket says, "My thoughts." Let me see if I can get this real quick. Where are you? There it is. It says, "My thought process is majority of politicians have failed us. They split and divide us, played up the fears on both sides. But more importantly, we have failed ourselves and each other for falling for it to begin with.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to be able to talk to each other, not to see who is the loudest or the one. Yeah, for sure. We're gonna be a little trouble. 100%. Zach Jacket, you are correct. Thank you so much for your 100 BS. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But at the same time, who are you supposed to trust? Right? Are you supposed to trust the people that you elect? And yeah, we're following for it, but we're the people who elect these people. So in theory, you're electing them based off of off the bill of sale that you're being sold.
In theory, but it's kind of like this. It's like you get to vote, right? And that's your free sample at the grocery store. And she's got 3 grapes in front of you. Let's say one's red and one's a blue grape and one's a green grape. And if they're all wrinkly or have mold on them or whatever, you're like, well, those are my options. I've got to choose one. So that's more so why we find ourselves in these. Our standards have like decreased. I think they've stair-stepped over the last, I don't know, let's say 50 years or so. I don't know. And our standards keep getting lower. It's kind of like music, if you don't mind me saying. Our standard in music keeps decreasing, so it just keeps getting worse, right? And so we're just like, it's not even music anymore. There's nothing catchy here. But for the kids, they're just like, well, these are my options. I like this. Yeah.
Right. But then when you expose them to something else, they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Here, okay, I'm going to give this to Griff tonight. Griff gets the Twitch comment of the day.
All right.
How can we even talk to each other when one side says all the time, if you like this guy, delete me from your friend/follow list?
Right.
And
great comment of the day.
Now, Griff, I'm not just going to say one side. I'm going to say both sides say that, right? I think you get that from a little bit from all sides. And because that just comes back to the polarization of everything. So, it's crazy.
Yeah. You know what I've found that's interesting is like everybody, the arrogance, somebody had shared that recently, actually, in my Facebook newsfeed, and they got a mean message. They said, look, I've seen your post. They shared the message that they were sent. And the message was, I've seen your posts lately, and I've decided to unfriend you. You're no longer connected to me. And I was thinking, like, what arrogance to message the person to say, look, you're not feeding me the thoughts that I want to think.
Right.
So you're no longer allowed to be associated with me. And it's so weird, like the arrogance of that post, right? If you don't want to do that, then you don't get to be with me. It's like, all right. And the funny thing is, we're not looking for each other's posts, by the way. Like Craig, you're no longer on Twitter.
No.
And so like the only reason people were talking to you was because they saw your post, right? It popped up and then they read it. Now that it's not there, they're not thinking about you anymore. Right. So like, hopefully they're coming on over the YouTube and everything else, but you know what I mean? Like if it's not there in front of you, you're not thinking about it. That's the whole problem with the internet. Boom, 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 boom. It's just a scroll of information hitting you and you think, I got to respond to that. There's my thought because I've got the internet.
Right.
Dante
says, this is the problem with social media. It lets people isolate themselves from viewpoints. You're correct. And that's the scariest thing about this whole thing, right? Is what's the solution? The
Mhm.
like the only solution, like legitimately the only solution is getting rid of social media. Like that's the only way that things kind of get back to normal, but that's never going to happen. So we have to learn how to live with this new normal of just shit opinions and shit thoughts and shit brain, group think that,
Mhm.
if you're not like me, you're against me. And
Yeah.
that's extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Well, we
we're
have good
going.
tools. We've got good tools at our disposal. We just don't know how to use them yet. And honestly, we've only really had these tools at our disposal for 10 and 15 years now, which is really not that long because they keep changing. So we have to reconfigure how to use them every, twice a year whenever they upgrade the layout and stuff, right?
Right. Well, it's crazy. It's a cesspool, right? It's a cesspool. I feel so fortunate. You know, I was sent links of people literally celebrating me getting off Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They were celebrating me getting off Twitter because I wasn't, I finally did it, and this fucker's finally off. And it's like,
Oof.
number one, I legitimately feel sorry for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
if your life revolves around who is and who is not on Twitter, you're pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're pathetic. And number two, I'm going to be so much happier, and I have been so much happier. It's been a week, since I've had a week now. Yeah, it's been
Mm-hmm.
a week, and like my screen time on my phone's down. I feel so much better mentally, and I felt like Twitter and social media was something that I had to have for my business, for
Mm-hmm.
my brand.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. Like
Yeah.
you don't need it. No matter the excuse that you think you need to have it. You're
Yeah.
wrong. Like you are wrong. You
Yeah.
don't need to have it. You don't need to have it to communicate with your friends. If you want to get off it, tell your friends you're getting off it, get their phone numbers and call them or text them. You don't
Yeah.
need to DM them. You don't need to care what they think. Ultimately, and by the way, those are the friends that don't forget about all the friends that you lost because they either unfriended you or you unfriended them. It's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, we become gravitated into or just sort of pulled into this whirlwind of thinking like when I toured colleges after I performed at a university, I'd get an influx of Facebook friend requests, and I'd always, accept them because I want to stay connected with them and let them know when I had a new show coming through. But now I have thousands of people I don't know that see my life and when I post things, and that's fine. But then if I post something and they don't agree with it, well,
Right.
I'm going to hear about it. And I'm like, who are you? You came to a show 10 years ago.
Right.
I never saw you again. Why are we having this conversation? Let's just look. If you want to listen to my music, great. Uh, I'll let you know when I'm coming back, and like that's as far as I wanted it to really go. I
Right.
didn't really need to have a conversation about your thoughts and opinions on my thoughts and opinions.
Right.
I didn't plan for that 10 years ago when I accepted yes on the friend request.
Sure. Right. And this kind of goes back. I want to highlight this comment up here. Where was it? Rated MJ. Where were you? I had you just a second ago. Essentially said, oh, here it is. I like connection of social media, but the toxicity has really changed how it was meant to be. But that's my thoughts on it. Rated MJ.
Yeah,
You're
spot
100%
on.
right.
Yeah,
like that's not your thoughts on it. That's everybody. That's literally the thought process of the people who created social media. That's how they think. Like if you have Netflix, I encourage you, I implore you, once we're done here, please. What's it called, Brad? The
the social
documentary?
dilemma. The
Yes,
social dilemma.
please
Oh
watch
yeah.
it. Like the social dilemma is like I said this on Twitter before I left Twitter. It is the most important documentary probably in the last 10 years. You need to watch it. It's so important. It tells you, it has the people who created Twitter, who worked on Twitter, who built Facebook, who built Instagram, who built all these major platforms. They're telling you it's bad for you. It's not what we built. It's not what we meant to build. It's turned into something else. It's taken over, and it's not what we originally intended. It's a bad thing. Like, only bad will come from using our platform. And Rated MJ, you're 100% right. 100% right. It's not what it was meant to be. So remove yourself from the situation. It's crazy.
Yeah. If you feel like you got to remove it, if you feel like, look, I think everybody knows in their gut, right? Like when something doesn't feel good, even if it tastes good, right? When you're eating food, even if it tastes good, and once it's sitting there and you know you're not eating something that you should be eating. It's the same with social media. It might feel good because you're getting likes or somebody agrees with you, but I think everybody knows, like, I don't need to be doing this, right? Like, I could be doing something else. Information is food for your brain, and you look at it like that, like I call it out all the time on the show when I pick out an article to talk about, and it's something like the internet is divided on Hulk Hogan's underwear color. And it's like, what is this information that I'm putting in my brain right now? Why do I need it there? So pick the stuff that makes you feel good and put it in there, but also seek for the truth, obviously. Some of it's not going to be pretty, but as long as it's true and real, at least you know that. But yeah.
Captain Agent says, I have a friend at work. She grew up in the USSR. Her grandmother lived through the Bolshevik Revolution. Her father, to this day, cannot leave Russia because he was in the Navy, and they fear he'd defect. She looks at what's going on here and is literally scared that we're running headlong down a similar path as a country. That's scary stuff, man. That's scary stuff. And thank you for that, Captain Agent. Appreciate it.
I love hearing perspectives like that. I did a proposal a few years ago in San Francisco for a lovely couple. They invited me out, or the groom did, boyfriend wanted me to play for her on a pier. I met their family afterwards, long story short, and her dad was telling me they were of Indian descent, and he told me how he came over here, and he said, you are so lucky to live in this country. Don't ever take that for granted. And he told me his story and everything, and it was one of those things where I had to sort of check myself for a minute and go, you're right. I have no idea what it's like anywhere else. And so that's why, like, today, when I see, like, oh, I'm embarrassed to be an American. I'm not embarrassed to be an American. We just got to figure out our crap, right? So, I don't know.
All right. Well, I think that's we've gone for about an hour and 10 minutes or so. We've talked about this quite at length. Let me wrap up with this. And this is probably the boldest statement I'm going to say tonight.
I'm ready.
All you 20-something-year-old kids, early 20-year-old kids on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, who think you know shit about life. You don't know shit. You don't know how life really is. Your opinion is not valid in real life. There's a very small percentage of you who actually have gone into the workforce, actually worked, and become productive in society, right? When you get to a point where you actually have life experience, that's when you become valuable, not when you're taking your courses at college. You're just a part of the cog at that point. And you think you're educating yourself, but the reality is that you're not. You get educated when you actually become a part of the workforce, when you get married, when you have a kid, when you actually have to earn your income. That is when you become valuable. And the idea that decisions are being made based off of like literally kids' thoughts is fascinating to me. Fascinating. So
beautiful words. I completely agree. I also want to respond with this. just for a joke. Okay, boomer.
Yeah, right. Okay, boomer. Right, exactly.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But like,
Just for fun.
no, it's true. Like,
You're
you
right.
you don't know anything.
I'm seeing the comments of like listen to your elders here, and like I think about our grandpa and what he taught us, and like learning from watching our parents make mistakes with their businesses and things that carry over. You need to pay attention to what has come before you, and just because you're riding high with young arrogance, we all do it, but you're gonna change, bruh.
Anybody think about this. Let's say you're a 22-year-old asshole, right? What were you at 12, 10 years ago? Think about how much you changed. How you thought when you were 12.
When I was 12, 10 years ago.
No, I'm just saying, let's just say
No,
you're 22, right?
Yeah.
Think about how much your life will change. And you've had nothing of consequence happen in your life. You got a sheet of paper for going to a public school. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You had your hand held all the way through. Oh, you got in debt for a college degree that'll probably do nothing for you, when you probably shouldn't have went to trade school in the first place and started going to an internship when you were 18. You wouldn't have any debt at all right now.
Yeah.
But you don't have a wife, you don't have a kid, you don't have a husband, and you're going to tell us how to act?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Get out.
Yeah, I think the crux of it is you got to be prepared to work. Everybody's story is different. Everybody ends up in a different place. My own experience was that I didn't go to college, right? I started a music career right after high school. I tried to go to college, but I was so dedicated and so passionate about what I was doing that I was ready to make it work. And I made mistakes. I lost money. I messed up so much, right? But I also accomplished so much as well. And I can utilize those skills moving forward. And those first 4 years after high school, when all my other friends went to college, they would ask me what I'm doing. And I would be like, oh, I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And it always seemed like I was telling them a lot more entertaining stuff. I'd be like, well, what are you up to? And they'd be like, well, I'm just going to take my classes. And I was like, well, what are you focusing on? They're like, I still really don't even know yet. And they were sort of jumbled up and figuring themselves out. And so, I'm just saying that because everybody's story is different, but you have to be ready to work, because a lot, they did figure themselves out. I'm sure some of them, they busted their ace throughout college and ended up, finding out what they were going to do, and they've been great ever since. I'm just saying, be prepared to make mistakes. Don't always think you're right. I'm just piggybacking off of Craig.
Awesome. I want to read this real quick. Zach Jacket says, I don't know if you saw my earlier comment, but the House of Representatives speaker podium is on sale for eBay for $80,300.
Oh, it's already on eBay. I saw the picture of that guy walking off with it.
That's insane. It says, I was still trying to figure myself out in my 20s. What I want to know, what I want now in my early 30s is completely different than what I wanted 10 years ago. 100%.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Mike Fury says, I think what's scary. He says, I think what's scary is that Netflix is going down the political route. For example, oh, you're a BLM activist. Let's feed you these movies / documentaries. Oh, you're a Trump supporter. Let's feed you these movies and documentaries. I look at this very differently than, say, I want to look for horror or comedy movies, and for Netflix for me to give me those suggestions. Political division is infiltrating outside social media and news outlets to other content, which I think is scary.
Yeah.
I think everybody's seen that when you log on, when you log on to Netflix. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. Mike, you're right, man.
Absolutely right.
Homer King says, you guys have to do more of these streams. Seriously important stuff. Well, this has been good. And I'm getting back to my normal stream schedule. Tomorrow I'll be back at 1:00 Central Standard Time. And we save these type of streams for when when grown ass talks need to happen. But with that said, I appreciate everybody popping in tonight and being a part of this. And it's important. It's important to have these conversations and to be open to having conversations, and to be open not just to hearing viewpoints of your own, but hearing viewpoints of the other side, right? And all sides for that matter. So take that for what it is. I know that a lot of, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Parler, YouTube, whatever. And by the way, Mike is it's not just Netflix, it's YouTube as well. You go on YouTube and they will force feed you what you want to what you want to see. And if, and that's the crazy thing about it for sure. So, it is what it is. So, but guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Brad, thank you for being a part of this, a very special edition of Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
We need a little logo. Look, 2021, we're getting some graphics in this house. Okay. We're going to we're going to up our game here. I'm gonna have to change my background, get a little bit more color. Look, Craig's got a really nice camera. I'm running off my laptop.
Well, you can go to patreon.com/Craig Skits to support this show. It'd be greatly appreciated, for sure. In the meantime, we do have overlays like this.
Yes, we do. We love that one.
All right, you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys. I'll see you guys on Thursday and Friday at 1:00 for my regular Twitch stream time. And of course, you can find new episodes of Weekdays with Craig and Brad every single Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. on youtube.com/Craig Skits. Brad, have a good day, buddy.
Yeah. See you later, buddy.
Hey, like seriously, we need everybody to hit the follow button. We got 120 people watching. It's great to see you guys. If you guys would like to see more of this, once again, please let us know and go watch the podcast every day. It's legitimately super important. So thank you guys very much for being a part of this. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you guys later. Be safe to each other. Once again, people are going to try to bring you down. Do not let them. If you got a goal, go get it. All right. People are shitholes. Don't let them be shitholes to you. All right. I'll see you guys later on. Good night.
See ya.